microphone with the lights on it. I don't know if it should be.
Nope.
Hi, everyone.
Hey, everyone. So I think we're live. I'm James Taylor. Welcome to our living room and kitchen. We're all here. This is my wife Kim, my son Rufus. Over there is Henry. That's my son Henry.
Hi there.
You have to bear with us a little bit because this is our first time doing this. So even if we sort of disappear for a moment or two or go silent or whatever disaster happens, bear with us and we'll be back as soon as we can. We thought we'd try this where we fielded some questions from you guys and talked a little bit about what we're all going through. And thanks for joining us. Our friend Nikki Adolfson and her husband Odin are behind the camera, and maybe let's go. Kimmy, do you want to read a question that's come in from
Sure.
God knows where?
You want to say anything first?
What, I can't remember what we had talked about.
Okay, let's start with a question.
Okay.
This is from Catherine in Providence. American Standard, your new record, is getting us through this time. My husband has MS, and this virus on top of that is frightening. The antidote is playing Moon River over and over. I think it's a comment.
Thanks. I appreciate that. These are songs also that gave me a lot of comfort growing up, and that taught me how to play guitar, and that's sort of a typical way of getting into the instrument. But Catherine in Providence, it is a frightening time. I think I think that it would be a mistake for me to equate my own experience of this to yours, to everyone else's, because we've been pretty fortunate. We came out here to Montana for spring break and have sort of been in limbo ever since, but it's a really nice limbo. And I know that there are people out there who are wondering where their next meal is coming from, who are really frightened about this, and that's not only understandable, it's probably appropriate. But the thing is that I try to think of it, when I get really anxious about it, I try to think of it as something new and historical that's happening to us. Dangerous and stressful, yes. I try not to overthink it. I want to think of it enough to be prepared, but not so much to stress myself out. And I think there will be a new reality, a new normal on the other side of this thing for us. But I think that we can only see it as what we must inevitably go through, and try to be as positive as we can, if that's of any help. But thank you, Catherine from Providence. Rufus, lead me in that.
Sure. This is from Mark in Berlin. Breakshot is honest, tough, and touching. It helps to listen to your struggles as we're facing our own. Was it hard to talk about such personal things?
Well, the nature of my work and my performance and the nature of my writing is that it is all very personal. And I've gotten used to sort of presenting my life and my experience and my take on it all to my audience. But actually, my audience is, I really am blessed and very grateful for the people who I interact with in my career, my audience, the people who show up for our concerts and who listen to Breakshot and who are watching this this webcast. I think that it's like I trust that process, and there were a couple of things that I sort of vacillated on, not sure whether it was cool to talk about, but in the end, I think you know, I may as well tell the whole story because that's what I've been doing for the past 50 years. Okay, Kim, another question.
This is from Mario in Rome. Have you ever lived through anything like this?
Mario, we've seen the pictures from Rome, and to a certain extent, we have to be grateful to you in Italy for basically letting us know what we're in for, and for trying to learn by your experience. This is unprecedented. It's something that we've known could happen. There are professionals amongst us, thank God, who think about this, the possibility of this thing, and have tried to prepare us for it. And I think that regardless of how we judge our leaders and their reaction to this thing, we have to try to support them and encourage them as much as possible. That's also a fine line between letting them know whether or not they're doing their job correctly, but we need to encourage them to lead us well at this point, because we're all in this together, and it's a first thing. But again, to Mario and Rome, we see what you've been going through, and in a way, we will benefit from it hugely. So we thank you too.
James, may I add, just we have dear friends, Adolfo and Luisa, excuse me, Gali, who are in northern Italy in Brescia, and I know they've been apart from their children. One is in Milan, and one is in a close town to Brescia, but they haven't been able to see them for almost a month. So we've been getting, thankfully, emails from them. We know they're well, but we feel as if we've been living vicariously through them. And they said we just pray that America can learn from what we did wrong.
Right.
So another question. This is from Mary in San Francisco. Do you have any advice for us in getting through the shelter-in-place order?
No, I mean, this is typically, I think a lot of people are usually go to work and have a sort of a schedule that their life is based on, and they and their families are sort of to disrupt that schedule so completely, and to interrupt our connection with other people in our lives is it's very disconcerting, and I think that we should just focus on taking care of one another, making sure that we're as comfortable as we can be, and supporting each other. I think also be diligent, think about what we need to do to, as they say, flatten the curve on this pandemic, so that our healthcare professionals are stressed as little as they can be. I mean, they are clearly overstressed, and there may be worse to come, but just think of yourself as, while you're socially distant, think of yourselves as being all engaged in an effort to get us through this as as cleanly and as healthily as possible. It's like the war effort, I'm sure. It's probably more like the war effort was in England. And I think it can bring out the best in us. Thank God we've got social media and our cell phones and our various devices to keep in touch with the world, because I think that's a major thing that's going to bring this through. So I want to take a second actually to thank those people, obviously to thank our healthcare providers, but also to thank the people that keep this communication system up and running. That's really key to us at this point. I don't know if I've offered any real advice on how to quarantine, as it were, but carry on. Okay.
This is from Emmanuel in Washington, which is very on topic for what you've just been saying. What goes through your mind when you see and read about doctors and nurses and all healthcare providers trying to work without PPE, personal protective equipment? It seems incomprehensible that this could happen in America.
Yeah, well, it's true, and without getting caught in the blame game too much, I think we've you know, let's encourage all of our. Kim and I have a box of masks here and a couple of boxes of gloves. One of them is construction, sort of, you know, when you're doing epoxying and fiberglassing kind of gloves, but they're nitrile gloves, and we're going to send them back to Boston to our friends at MGH. Whatever we've got, let's try to only get what we need for ourselves and our families, and not hoard things, so that that increases the scarcity of these essential PPE items. Let's. There are also people out there suggesting how we can actually make some of these things. You know, face shields and face masks. So. You know, just it's good for us all to be aware of it, and if we can find a way to help, we should. It's true that they are the soldiers of this war. They are on the front lines. They are at risk, and we have a huge debt of gratitude to pay to them for being there for us.
All right. This one's from Bozeman, actually, so pretty close to us, from Jim. What draws you to Montana? I love your songs about it on Before This World.
Oh yeah, thanks Jim from Bozeman. As a family, we've always skied. Rufus and Henry and Kim and I from the time they were like 3 or 4 years old, I think. You know, it's like the major winter activity for us. It's what we do as a family, and so you know, we were invited to come out and play a benefit in Montana, and we took advantage of the opportunity to come out here and ski in the Rockies, and there's nothing like it. It's beautiful. So ever since then, every spring break we try to get out here to Montana, and this time, you know, the ski lifts shut down after about 3 days that we were here, as they should have, as they must, and we're sheltering in place here, just awaiting developments and watching and waiting. But it's beautiful in Montana. It's you know, it just lets you know what an amazing and varied country this is, and we love it. But thanks, Jim.
From Antonia in Seattle. A lot of us are getting by on our daily walk, 6 feet apart, of course. So many of your songs, James, invoke nature. What do you most love about it?
You know, I don't want to get too deep in this thing or too cosmic, but I think that the biosphere, the skin of life on the surface of this planet, this unique planet, we haven't found another like it anywhere, and I think it's inevitable that there is other life in the universe, but whether or not we ever find it is in question. So I feel as though that the skin of life on this planet is co-evolved over billions of years, and that in fact, historically, religiously, culturally, human beings thought of themselves as different from the rest of creation, as being the stewards of creation, as being as being apart from it, and basically having dominion over it. But it turns out that we are completely connected to it. We are co-evolved. We have life forms living within us that are essential to our metabolism. We have you drink a cup of coffee. That's a plant out there that interacts directly with your adrenal system. The food we eat, the air we breathe, the way we interact with the microbiology of the planet. In this case, such a threat, but generally speaking, we're so tied in with it that to me it's a kind of religion, and I think that we're faced with the challenge of making sure that human activity does as little damage to that biosphere as possible. That's the direction we need to go in. I saw a documentary on CNN that basically made the point that these diseases that jump species and become so threatening to humans, it's because we're encroaching into the natural world more and more. And with our overpopulation and with our requirements from the natural world, we just need to. It's a hard thing to do, but it's not only a matter of whether or not the economy is burning along like a house afire. It's a matter of what it's consuming, and I think that's to me that's a very special concern. And almost like a sacred priority, but the connection to nature is I think essential, and the nature of human experience and consciousness is to separate us from that experience. So getting back is important. Anyway, I promised not to get too cosmic in there. I went ahead and did it. Oh, let's see. Got a message from Tricia Yearwood. Hi, Tricia. Say hi to Garth, too. That's excellent. Look at that.
So this is from Lori in Austin. What of your songs lift you up most at this time? For me, Up on the Roof takes me to a place of sweetness, even now.
Well, you know what? I can't say what songs of mine. I would say that in this time that we've basically been to sort of forced together as a family, although it's great, it's such a great opportunity. But I've been playing a lot of guitar, and Henry over there. I wanted to sweep over and get a panoramic view of him. Stop off on Kim and Rue and then come back to me. Henry's been asked me about a couple of changes in my own songs. So he's been playing Traveling Star a lot, and which is hard for me to play. So that's been my of my own material my main sort of high point recently. But I'm glad that you find some use to my songs and music, because that's the main thing, that they're useful to people, that people can profit by them, or that they can be supportive of people. That's the best possible feedback I can get. So I guess the thing is, Up on the Roof, I guess that might be something we could do if as long as we kept our distance. The social distancing thing, I think, is it's essential, and to always have in our minds the possibility of passing this disease on or picking it up. It's like we have to keep that constantly in our consciousness to think about minimizing our risk of contagion or of infecting someone else. So that's our task. That's our focus for these days. Is thwarting this disease and denying it another person to inhabit. And for that matter, I'm washing my hands more than I ever did, and that's an important
And using
thing
the word
to do
hunker.
too. And hunker, yeah, we're hunkering too.
Wherever.
I never used hunker so much. I love hunker and I use it a lot, but we never used the word hunker so much in our lives. So
All right.
Yes,
This is from Jenny in Ohio. How does it feel on stage for you to hear thousands of people singing word for word these beautiful songs you've given us? I can't imagine the overwhelming feeling that must be for you, but I'd like to hear your feelings on it.
yeah, the connection with the audience and the feedback that I get from that is the major. That's my major reward, and it never gets old. I love going out in the world and realizing that there are people who like to hear my stuff and feeling that connection with them when they relate to a song that we as musicians on stage love to play. And so I'm getting my oxytocin hit here from Ting. This is Ting. I think some of you know her already. She's an old girl. She's a good one. The prime example of that for me was going to Rio de Janeiro in 1985. I was completely new to the country, but I was I'd had a huge love affair with bossa nova and Brazilian music. So when I got there and walked out on stage with my band, and 300,000 people sang along, as the Brazilians do. They're big for singing along. Man, that was it came at a really important time in my life, and that was the epitome of that experience. But what you mentioned, that connection with the audience and the sort of thrill of coming together as a community, a sort of an ad hoc community, man, that's powerful stuff for me.
So Sheila in Mount Desert asks, partially just answered it, of the many venues you've performed at, is there one or two that stand out from the rest, and why?
Well, Sheila, there are places that I come back to year after year, and some of them are remarkable because of their setting. Like there's a place called the Gorge in the state of Washington, and it's a remote place, but the view from there is it's unbelievable, and the audience really has to hike for a while to get to the venue. So I'd say the Gorge in Washington, always Tanglewood in our hometown of Lenox, Massachusetts. Tanglewood is the campus, sort of the summertime campus of the Boston Symphony, and it's been a place that I play every year on the 4th of July. So that's hugely important. And then, I love Albert Hall in England. I've loved playing in Taormina in Sicily with Mount Etna in the background, playing that Roman ruin. l'Olympia in Paris, playing Carnegie Hall, of course. I don't know, I could go on forever, but yeah, there certainly are favored places, lovely places.
Okay, here's Henry with reading a question.
So, Dave in London asks, did you enjoy driving the 55 Chevy in two-lane blacktop?
You know, that was my first and last experience as a movie actor, and it was a very strange one. It was intense too. We shot the movie over a very condensed period of time, and you know, I couldn't change my clothes because we were shooting every day and we didn't have time to wash them. And after a while, they didn't want to wash them because they looked too clean. We should have thought of that in advance. But you know, driving the car was a thrill. We had two cars that were camera cars with one of them with scaffolding, pipe scaffolding on the outside to mount cameras on to shoot through the windshield and stuff. And we had another one that was sort of a second, but the main car was the real deal. It had I think a 454 Chevrolet a short block engine. It had a Hurst linkage. The front and back of the car were made out of fiberglass. It was light and powerful, and it was a beast to drive and a pleasure to drive. And you know, I've been a sort of a motorhead as a kid, like anyone in North Carolina or rural North Carolina would be, but you know, this was new actually, and basically they just dropped me in the seat, said take the RPMs up to 6,500 and dump the clutch, and you know, it was just hold on and try to stay on the road for a while there. It was great. It was fun to do it.
So Don in Chapel Hill writes, so when I go on my daily walks in Chapel Hill, where's your favorite memory of this place? I'll listen to your music and walk by there today.
Don in Chapel Hill. Yeah, I grew up in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, and but I think it's probably a different place today than the one that I left when I was 14 or 15 years old. But you know, I can picture Main Street, the Carolina Theater across the street from Sloan's Drugstore, which probably isn't there anymore, but something is. I remember my mother picketing the restaurant right down the street from that during the civil rights movement, trying to integrate a particular restaurant in Chapel Hill. The junior high school was just down the street from that, just to the west of the theater and the drugstore. There was an arboretum that was part of the campus of UNC, and that was a lovely walk. It was like beautiful trees and, you know, just sort of a park. The campus in general was beautiful. My dad worked in the medical school, and so that was the center of our sort of town experience, was the campus of the university, and so I remember walking all over there myself for years. Anyway, it's nice to think about the old place again, and Don from Chapel Hill. Thanks.
So Deborah wants to know what it's like to hang with Jimmy Buffett. You two together have to be a gas, she writes.
Yeah, it's just like you'd think, Deborah. In fact, early on, I remember on the island of Montserrat in the Caribbean, there used to be used to be a studio there called Air Studios. It was actually a sort of a satellite location from Air Studios in London. George Martin, the Beatles' producer, fantastic, brilliant producer, he had founded it in the Caribbean on the island of Montserrat as a place to sort of rotate his staff through. And I know that the police, Sting and the police, recorded there, and I did too. But the first time I was ever on Montserrat was when Jimmy Buffett was recording a volcano down there. And in fact, the volcano did blow. And it was a disaster for the main town there on Montserrat and for the whole population. But we went down there, my brother Hugh, my brother Alex, and myself, to record with Jimmy. There were a couple of songs he wanted us to back him up on, and you know, that's sort of sun and rum and music, and yeah, I'm afraid we must have gotten into some trouble, because I can't really clearly remember what happened down there. But it is fun to it's great to hang with Buffett. I miss him. I haven't seen him in too long a time.
So this is from Jay in Virginia. If you could bring anyone back from the past to play music with you, who would it be?
You know, it's not going to be, you know, Sam Cooke or who you might expect, Otis Redding, Sam Cooke, Carla Thomas, even recently passed Aretha Franklin. For me, the person I'd like to play with again is my dear friend Don Grolnick, who we lost I think in 1986. No, 1994. Or no,
96.
It was 96, yeah. 1996, we lost Don Grolnick, and he's a brilliant piano player and produced a number of my records, but also was just a dear friend. And Don, and also Carlos Vega, brilliant drummer that I used to work with. So maybe a little bit of a disappointment as an answer that I actually go back and revive, resurrect a couple of my old bandmates who've gone before. But I miss those guys, and it was great playing with them, so that's my answer.
Oh, Jerry. Jerry asked, what triggered you to record the American Songbook songs? It is great, by the way, to hear you in different repertoire and range.
Yeah, you know, those are songs. The main thing that helped us choose the material that's on American Standard. Those songs are songs that I learned as a sort of a rising guitar player. There comes a point when you're playing the guitar or whatever instrument you're sort of learning, when what's coming back to you, it makes you want to hear more and more of it. So you get into this period, this concentrated period of playing everything you can think of. And I would play everything that came, you know, through my mind or through my ears. And these songs that I grew up with, that my parents played in their family record collection, I used them to learn how to play that kind of stuff on the guitar. And they taught me a lot of new chords and a lot about playing. But when it came time for us to make this standards album, I just went back to those songs that I knew on the guitar, that I'd learned on the guitar. Essentially, it is a guitar album. My guitar arrangements of those songs are what's at the basis of each track, and those are the ones that I knew how to play, and that I knew from my childhood and the family record collection. that was what decided it. So it's sort of a one of a kind. We could apply that sort of James Taylor music vocabulary and sensibility to another batch of songs, but these were the original ones that I knew.
Okay. This is from Teresa. How, let's see, who were you or are you starstruck by? Or would be if you currently met them?
Oh man, you know, the list is long. I mean, Kim will attest to this, and so will anyone in my band. I can't stand to know if there's someone that I admire or revere in the audience. Particularly, you know, if you said, for instance, that Pat Metheny was in the audience, or that Ry Cooder was in the audience, Trisha Yearwood or Garth Brooks, I have to ask them to shield me from that knowledge, because really makes me nervous when I get on stage. I get nervous as it is. I'm a nervous performer, and I'm much more than Kim is. She has like an ease with it, and Henry too. And Rufus has done some acting as well. They don't seem to have inherited my nerves. But so I do get starstruck. I keep thinking about what it was I just played, and was that any good, rather than what I'm just about to play. So I do get starstruck. I remember meeting Hugh Laurie. I really admire Hugh Laurie for his work in House. It's unbelievable that he's actually English, because his American accent is so excellent. But we met him at a hotel in Los Angeles, and Kim was hiding in the Potted Palm, sort of spying on him, and got me to go over and say hello. That was one. I hope you find it humorous. Okay.
Actually, one time when the boys were little, do you remember, James? It was after a Hollywood Bowl performance, and the boys must have been, I don't know, 6 or 7, and we came back to find you in your dressing room, and the boys were a little behind us with a babysitter, and they just roared into the room, panting out of breath, and they said, "Mom, Dad, you won't believe who's standing in the hallway." And we said, "Who?" And they said, "Indiana Jones, James Bond, and Forrest Gump." And I think they weren't quite at the point that they sort of thought they were actors, but of course it was Harrison Ford and Pierce Brosnan and Tom Hanks. And James said, "Oh, thank God I didn't know they were out there."
That's right. I would have been paralyzed. Remember that.
Very
Yeah.
sweet.
Also, once we were Carole King and I were in 2010. We're playing in Melbourne, Australia, and I was playing with Carole, and Lady Gaga is a huge Carole King fan, so she came backstage to say hello to us, and I was. They had been sort of placed, and we're talking in a particular room, reception room, and we're talking to Carole King, and the kids at that point were like 8 years old. Yeah.
8 or 9 now.
Came back and said, "Dad, there's a woman in a rubber bathing suit in the next room, and you got to go in and talk to her."
Oh my God! I forgot about that.
That's true. All right. Here's one from Sarah in St. Louis, Missouri. What does a day in the life of a wandering minstrel look like? Do you travel right after the show or the next day? And how do you stay in shape on the road?
Yeah, well, there was a certain point in my recovery from addiction that physical exercise became essential to me. And we actually brought with us a physical trainer who would work out anyone in the band who, we did sort of aerobics classes or a version of it every day. One tour we toured with spin bikes, another we toured with those step devices, and so being fit on the road was essential to me for quite a few years. I backed off it a bit since, but yeah, after the show is finished at 11 o'clock or so, we get on the bus and drive to the next town, because you're going to be, you know, it's best to get a few hours of sleep on the bus while you're headed to the next town. It's just better to do it overnight, and I think most people probably tour that way, leave after the gig and drive to the next town. It can be difficult to check into a hotel at like 4 in the morning and try to get back to sleep, but you know, you learn these tricks after a while. You also learn how to pace yourself. These days I'll do 2 shows in a row and then take a day off, so that I can rest my voice. You know, it's just something that you learn to do over time. It's life on the road, and you know, it's great because I love my band, so, and crew for that matter. Yeah, my band and crew. That brings me to canceling these tours this summer. Well, postponing them. We're definitely going to come back and play these gigs in Canada, and to the extent that we need to postpone and relocate stuff, the tour with Jackson Browne in America, we're going to find that out in the next week or so, whether we need to change that tour. I think it's highly probable that this will continue, and that we'll need to postpone and relocate some of those gigs, if not all of them. But the thing is that Jackson and Bonnie Raitt as well. Bonnie was going to be working with me in Canada. She's totally game to reschedule that for another time. And Jackson has let me know that he's ready to do that too, whatever comes up. So it's particularly for people who give concerts and ask an audience to come together in this time of social distancing. It's just, that's off. That's like owning a restaurant or a movie theater. This is one of the businesses that has to be put on hold. Yeah. Okay.
Well, here's a good one that I think Rufus should read.
Beth says, I'm a pastry chef and love that you bake pies. Are you baking to get through this time at home?
Yeah, the reason that Beth, the reason Beth asked whether or not she knows that I bake pies. We did a little piece on baking pecan pies one for a couple of Thanksgivings in a row. I'm not a great baker, but thankfully we have Rufus in the house who bakes a mean loaf of bread. Last night he made a focaccia, which was delicious, and one of the things that we made sure that we had plenty of stores of is flour and yeast and other baking soda, other shortening, whatever we need to bake with, because Rue's a great baker and we all profit by it. So.
Too much.
Too much.
He's a little too good. All right, this is from Larry. Could you tell us about your instruments? What is it that makes you love them? I'm an amateur luthier and would like to know what it is that makes you love a particular guitar.
Yeah, my choice is, I'm going to move a little bit here, Nikki, if you can track me. this is my current. This may not be news to many of you, but this is an Olson guitar. It's made by James Olson in St. Paul, Minnesota. In I think 1988, perhaps 87, I was playing a benefit in Minneapolis, and when I checked into the hotel room, one of James Olson's guitars was in that room, and I still play that guitar today. And the thing about it is, he's a great guitar maker, and extremely sort of predictable. I mean, consistent, reliable, and he's, you know, it's sort of half his skill as at woodworking and guitar making, and the other half of it is how he's designed his workshop and his method of construction. So this is a smaller version of parlor-sized guitar, James Olson guitar. I'm gonna give it to Henry and ask him to play something on it. So yeah, like I said, we've been sort of hunkered down and hole up here, and we've been, Rufus has been baking, Henry's been playing a lot of guitar. So play My Traveling Star for us, will you? Leading home again, never know. Excellent. Thank you, Henry. Sorry to put you on the spot like that.
Well, what about a few more, James?
Like throwing a kid into a swimming pool to teach him to swim. Sure, let's do a few more. I've got to get a drink of water.
All right. Well,
so, Kimmy, ask away. I'll repeat the question.
okay. Here's a question. Can you hear?
Yeah.
Are you washing your hands?
No, not yet. I'll wash my hands later. What is it they say? You're supposed to sing Beethoven's Ode to Joy twice while you're washing your hands. It takes
Oh
about a
God,
half hour.
that would take about 2 hours, or an hour and a half.
Yeah, it's happy birthday.
Okay, James, I'm wondering if you have perfect pitch, or if you had to work on recognizing notes from Samantha in New Jersey.
No, I don't have perfect pitch. I have relative pitch, but you know, and people who do have perfect pitch, there are some real advantages to it, but it can be a curse too, because you know, everybody, when a band gets together and tunes, particularly before these great tuners that we've got now, they used to, you know, you the whole band would be in tune with each other, but they might be a half tone flat or something. And for people with perfect pitch, that's torture. I do have a good sense of what's sharp and flat, but only relative to what other music is being played.
Great. Here's one from Margot in London. I believe you and your family live in the Berkshires part of the time. Would you and your neighbor, Yo-Yo Ma, consider a socially distant performance together during this difficult time?
That's a great idea. That's a great idea. She mentions that this is from London. Okay, well,
I have a feeling she knows the Berkshires, though,
Well,
or the Berkshires, as they
right.
say there.
Yeah, the Berkshires, where we live in Western Massachusetts, is named after the Berkshires, spelled the same way, pronounced differently in England. And Yo-Yo Ma also lives in our neighborhood there, because both of us are focused on Tanglewood, the Boston Symphony Orchestra's summertime campus there. There's a music school, there's a huge performance center, and it's a great place to visit. So Yo-Yo and his family and Kim and I and our guys and Nikki and Odin too, we all live in the Berkshires, and this who is it from London?
Margot.
Margot asks if we could get together, Yo-Yo and I, and do a kind of a concert. And actually, I've already spoken with Yo-Yo about that, and he's game to do it. So I don't know how long it'll take us for us to get home to Massachusetts. And but Yo-Yo is passing this time of social quarantine also in the Berkshires, so in his hometown. So we'll have a chance to do that. I should think within the next month sometime. Thanks, Margot.
All right. James, maybe this should be the last one
Okay.
for today. Maybe anyone could stand to sit through this another time.
I think we've been at it for almost an hour
Oh my
now.
gosh.
So
All
thanks
right.
for those of you who hung in there. Thanks, and maybe we'll do it again sometime. I appreciate the questions and your attention. What's the last question?
This is from Julia in Barcelona, or Barcelona, as you like.
Yeah.
Hi, James. Your music has such a consoling quality to it, despite its sadness. Would you give us a little taste of it?
Oh, yeah, maybe so. My nails aren't, my finger, I play with my nails, so let me get that guitar and I'll play, I don't know what they're listening to in Barcelona these days, but, let's see. I'm not in good enough voice to sing for you now. Okay.
Well, wash your hands.
Okay, let's all wash our hands. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood.
Come on, guys.
Okay, we're supposed to sing happy birthday twice.
Happy birthday.
Happy
Happy birthday, dear participants. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
They get the
Happy
picture.
birthday, dear web community. Happy birthday to you. So long, folks.
Hey,
Oh my God.